Sports Extra on a Tuesday, keeping you informed.
We have 10 teams this season. Nice.
Sports Extra Cayman Islands.
A young team full of talent, full of desire to do good things.
We've had some success with the outdoor league being restarted.
Alrighty, good evening and welcome to Radio Cayman Sports Extra. I'm your host, Dionne. Tonight, we have a very special guest on with us here tonight, for a full segment, that is. And tonight we'll hear from the Minister of Sports, the Honorable Bernie Bush. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, and thanks for having me, Dionne. Thanks for the invitation.
You're more than welcome. I'm very happy you're here. We have so much to clear up, so much to chat about. Tonight we'll be discussing the recent success, of course, of our Carifta athletes, track and field and aquatics. The recent controversy, of course, surrounding track and field and cycling. Unfortunately, the role of associations, the recently formed sports commission, focus sports, and so much more. Right? We have the minister. We're going to make good use of him in here. All right, so don't miss it. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with Sports Extra in a minute.
The Business Buzz. Each and every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 7:30 a.m. Brought to you by
Cayman Medical Supplies. Call them at 949-6211. Cayman Insurance Center, celebrating 45 years in the Cayman Islands, specializing in property, life, and other lines of insurance products and services.
The 2023 Household Budget Survey is currently being conducted by the Economics and Statistics Office. The data collected from the survey will determine the items and the dollar value of these items that are included in the new Consumer Price Index basket of consumer goods and services for the Cayman Islands. Trained interviewers with identification cards from the ESO will visit 2,400 randomly selected households across all districts. The Household Budget Survey will run for 1 year, ending February 2024. Approximately 200 households will be interviewed each month. The interviews are confidential in accordance with a Statistics Act. No individual data will be published or disclosed. Survey data are exempt from Freedom of Information requests. For further information on any aspect of the Household Budget Survey, please contact the ESO hotline at 516-3329. Feel like a winner? The Business Buzz has something special for our listeners on Tuesday mornings. We're giving away a gift certificate to Tucka Restaurant and Bar to one lucky winner of our trivia question. All you have to do is stay tuned into the Business Buzz on Tuesday mornings from 7:30 a.m. for your chance to win. Each week will be a different trivia question and your chance to win. Stay tuned to the Business Buzz with host Anita Khan, Tuesday mornings, to see how you can win a gift certificate to Tucka Restaurant and Bar.
Attention all runners and walkers. It's time to lace up your shoes and join us for our annual Deputy Governor's 5K Challenge Run Walk event. Whether you are a seasoned runner or just looking for a fun way to get some exercise, this event is for you. Join us on April 16th in Cayman Brac and April 30th in Grand Cayman. Do something good for your body and have some fun while supporting our local community. Proceeds benefit Loud Silent Voices, the Cayman Islands Red Cross, and the United Against Bullying Foundation. The DG's 5K could not happen without support from our platinum sponsor, Appleby, and gold sponsors, Butterfield, Credit Union, DART, Davenport Development, EY, and our halfway point sponsor, Cynical. $25 for adults and $10 for kids 17 and under. Register at www.racecaribbean.net. Don't miss out on this opportunity to have fun, get fit, and support our community. See you at the start line.
This is your radio.
I don't want no chupapa-did, I chupapa-did, I chupapa-did. Don't want no chupapa-did, I'm in my dumpling hole.
Thank you for making us your choice. Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Good evening once again. Welcome back to Radio Cayman Sports Extra. The Honorable Minister for Sports, Bernie Bush is in the studio with us. And tonight I want to discuss, the recent success of our 2023 Carifta athletics and aquatics teams, 69 medals in total between swimming and track and field. I know we have to touch on, of course, the unfortunate incident that took place in Bahamas, but the athletes have long been overshadowed by this, and though what happened is important, I believe it's a minor compared to the success of the athletes. So we're definitely going to touch on the success of the athletes first. So aquatics, as you know, made history. You were there.
Yes, last year I went with track and field.
So you took the opportunity.
This year I went with swimming, and what I've done both times is I sit amongst where the athletes are.
Yeah.
You get to watch the makeup of certain people.
Yeah.
You will look at what kind of attitude. You look at effort. You get to see a lot when you're sitting there, and swimming, I think are heading in the right direction.
Yes.
Because Ciaza has they have a lot of sins in their past.
Yeah.
But I see the present body doing the right thing and trying to do the right thing. So, and they're doing more than trying. So I got to say that. They're getting a lot done. I mean, for example, you saw them take their team manager, and they had 2 young women understudying her.
Okay, good.
I watched them accredit even the coaches for the swimmers who were swimming overseas.
Right.
So that they could come and be there. And then they had 2 of their top coaches from Grand Cayman there as well.
Right.
From different clubs, because the athletes. So you see them thinking about the athletes. And I think that is what is missing at time in other places.
And thinking of the future.
Yeah, but the future's there, but you got to think when... Dionne, you were a pretty decent basketball player in your time.
No, stop you right there. You'll be afraid to say it. I was great. Just say
it. You know how important the mind is when you want to go there to play.
Yes.
And a lot of these associations have made their egos
get
in the way of, because they may not like what the athlete says, or they may not like what the athlete's coach may say or whatever. For too long, I was talking with my chief officer this morning, and I was explaining something to her, and I said to her, do you know how long? And I used the analogy. My chief officer is a member of the folk singers, a nice group that sings beautiful old Caymanian music and stuff like that. And I see them now bringing in 4 young people.
Right.
And so I said to her, don't you think that when you have young people who go to the Festival of the Arts and they sing good, that they would want to step up to the next stage and sing with them? Yes.
Yes, of course.
It's the same thing in sports. The greatest thing is to get called to represent your country. And what has happened in Cayman for years, coaches have told their athletes, do not go to represent your country. And I know this. I remember when I was building the girls' team, there was a coach who moved his team on national team days so I couldn't get the girls.
His practices.
His practices.
Yes.
But you know, you when you've been in this long enough, you know what to expect.
Yeah.
And I told the parents, and the parents stuck with me. And when I changed it to the other day, can you imagine a national program moving to suit a certain school?
Yeah.
But I did it because I wanted the 4 or 5 girls that were coming from that school, the 4 girls from that school, to be a part of the program. Right. Now, when he attempted to shift it back, the parents said, no, sorry.
Of course not.
This is obvious what this is. They have to represent their country. And they've all gone on to greater things. Those 4 or 5 girls who their parents had enough sense to look at what was going on. But that was just an instant that I personally experienced. But you had coaches telling players.
I have experienced it as well.
I rest my case. So these are the things that we have to get past. I was talking to the volleyball technical director on Sunday night. I was out handing over trophies out at the airport park.
Mr. Trevor.
And I seen some talent. I saw that program a year ago, and I saw it Sunday night. And it has gone from, if on a scale to 10 it was a 2 or 3, it's all the way up to a 6 or 7 now.
Right.
And you see these young boys jumping so high. They're up there, and you see the technical side of the game. You see them getting it, that they're slowly. They don't have to think about it. They're automatic. And I was talking to Trevor, and I said, you know, the important thing about this is you starting young.
Right.
And you can hear the relationship he has with his
them.
athletes.
Yes.
So when I said to him, he said there was 2 or 3 people he's been trying to get. And I said to him, the trick is you identify the athlete. Get the mother or father's number.
Parents.
Go to them, and you sell it to the parents. Then make the parents help you sell it to the child. Because we have to compete with PlayStation, Xbox,
and so many other
television,
sports as well.
and other sports. If it was other sports, only other sports, I'd be happy because at least they're doing something physical and keeping themselves fit. So we have a ways to go. God's willing, there's a plan in place, and it's at times I know I'm unpopular because I say the things that should have been said a long time ago to some of the associations, and they don't like it. But I'm starting to identify some of the things, and I know you said to me that one of your questions you said to me the other day when you said you want to question me was about how do we deal with these associations.
Yes.
Well, this is something that we identified when I was on the Olympic Committee. The Olympic Committee has put on leadership workshops, no expense to the associations. And the funny thing about it, I'm looking at some of those associations who are having problem. There's some of the ones that never showed up.
Okay.
And I remember sailing showing up. I remember rugby showing up. I remember swimming showing up. And you see them transition from, I remember when the last president of swimming was leaving, Michael Lockwood Jr. Called me and he said, please support Mr. Broadbelt, the new president. And you don't get that too often. When one president's leaving, then he's cursing the next one and going on.
Right.
But the associations need to, I will be working closely with the Olympic Committee and to be put on to bring back some of those leadership courses again.
What are you currently seeing most associations doing well?
Some of them are doing well, but they've all been forced, most of them have been forced to concentrate on small. I told everyone, I did not try to beat around the bush. I told every one of them, I am buying what I'm not just going to give out money willy-nilly.
Right.
I'll buy the product that I want. And if I look at your program and I see where you're under 11 or 12 is strong, but you're under 13s a week, I'm going to spend money on the under 13 program where the gap is missing. It has to be organized and planned. For example, basketball just had their coaches, the level 1 coaches course. So now what you done when you get those, and I went there and I saw like 12 to 16 people there, and they had, and I was appreciative of the fact that they even had 2 women there. So that is good, because we tend to have these things and forget, what about the women? What about the women? And so you start there. Now, my next step is trying to get my sports office coaches into the schools to work with the PE teachers. What does that do? In all of these classes in the school, you have 8, 9, 10, 12 kids that are outstanding, and the rest not interested, don't want to do it, and some are just not athletic.
Right.
But what it does, it gives help to the PE teacher to take that pressure off. But now my staff can now identify. They can now do their report and say, John Brown is at prep, or no, John Brown is at prospect.
Okay.
And he's especially good at running or jumping. So we have that in the book. Now I will go to the technical director at the sport and says, we have this, here's the parent's number. So my thing on my office says identify and develop.
The PE teachers.
No, the athletes.
The athletes is
identify and develop them. So, and I must say, the education ministry and their head, Mr. Mark Ray, are really and truly working with me.
Yeah, I do think that physical education teachers should get more involved with associations.
That's what it was before.
Yeah, so that, you know, a PE teacher in one school can't just only coach cricket and can't just only coach basketball, but they can coach track and field, they can do swimming, they can do track and field. I said that already. Football, they can do rugby, all of the 8 focus sports, if anything, you know.
But I remember they brought in a PE teacher that was teaching some other sports that we'd never seen, but in his life. But that's changed, thank the Lord. But you're right, and I have said to Mr. Ray that I would like to sit with his people who are doing the hirings and show them what to look for in with the PE teachers, because we have to work together. But whether that will be done, we'll have to see, because a lot of people are very protective of their little kingdoms.
Yes.
And they don't look at the picture that it's not about me or them, it's about the children.
The children, and they're suffering. If the majority of the PE teachers here can coach cricket and they can coach track and field. But when it comes to the technical sports, like let's say basketball, football, volleyball, you don't, the children are not learning in that way. So it'll be really well if they come together and work with the associations.
Yes, and the associations are willing.
Yeah,
we just have to get it organized, you know. And like I said, this year is the school year is getting down.
Yes,
but we're making notes, we're looking at things, and we know when school open back for sure we'll have things that we'll have at least 2 good years of working things smoother the way we want it to go. That I think will benefit the athletes. You see, everybody wants an overnight success. Some things you can't get it overnight.
True.
You have to lay the foundation. And one thing now, there are a lot of sports. When you look at, I saw the rugby under 17s or 15s go to Mexico. Now I understand.
Men or women?
Women.
Women.
And then I saw them, they're leaving now on Friday to go away again, or Friday or Saturday. But, Lord, those girls were even younger than the under 17.
Yeah.
That's an awesome move.
Yeah.
And rugby is
way younger.
Yes, and that's when I built the girls' football program. That's what I did. It was an under 17 program, but I went and got the girls from the time they were 12 and 13 and 14. So I had them for 2 or 3 years before the thing, and they went on to represent. They're the only team to ever go into the top 10 in CONCACAF. No other Cayman team's ever done that. And I love bragging that, you see, because part of that program is part of the problem is cycling. Because some people saying, what's happening with cycling? Well, I've done my homework, and I made some notes, and I finally found out what the problem is. And I remember when I was building that program, that under 17 program, I went to Everton Sarge Edwards. He was the head coach at FIU. Told him what I was going after, and he laughed. He says, I'm going to give you one book, but that's for 1 year to start the first year. But you must not give it to anybody, not the association, nobody, because this is my intellectual property. He says, because it's you, and I trust you, and I like you, and I know you're serious, and you're dedicated to this, I'm going to... When I finished that first year, I returned the book. I never copied a page. The second year, that's intellectual property. And apparently what's happening is that the Cycling Association, this is when you see things get personal, wants the young man to sign an agreement. And in that agreement, he must sign over, they want him to give him their his numbers and stuff like that. That's not right. I remember asking Ronald Forbes when he was at FIU, he said, Mr. B, that belongs to my coach. I can't. And he says, I can help you out of my head, but to coach, but that stuff that he said that's the stuff that belongs to the coach. So this is what
I've heard that as well. I've heard that that's one of the reasons why they're having this rift, and it's because the coach said no to the association because
it's his stuff.
He would lose his numbers, and that's what cycling goes by, their numbers and their
Correct.
credits, right?
So you see.
So what do you do in a situation like that?
The association is supposed to take the high ground.
What is the high ground? Hiring back the coach?
No, this is personal from what I'm understanding, doing my homework now. This is personal between them and the coach, and they're making Nathaniel suffer, which is our national. But here's what's happened. Because he doesn't want to move, and I knew, and I was very upset at that time. He was supposed to go to represent us at a meet.
Right, in Jamaica.
And a week before that, they told him, we're not sending your coach. You can't do that to an athlete. To me, that was the beginning of the sins. And the young man, and there are some things you can't say, but you have to get to know Nathaniel. There are some athletes who tend to depend on their coaches more than others.
Yeah, he's very shy.
And he has an excellent relationship with his coach.
Right.
So he didn't want to move without him. Now, it's like the coach has also become a part of his family. The mother, the father, and the coach, they all to keep the young man up and going. And what happened was, by not sending him to the Pan Am Championships, he won't have a chance to qualify for the Pan Am Games in October.
Right.
You realize?
Yeah.
So then those two large competitions will give him a knock point. If he don't get those points, it will knock him off the chance of gaining a universality spot to ride at the Olympics. Can you imagine? This is what they have done to that young man because of personal feelings. They can come with all the excuses in the world. I was on that Olympic committee for 16 years. I remember when Siaza did not want to send Heather Rofe to the games. The Olympic committee had the power to overrule that, sent Heather and her coach, and she got her first gold medal at CAC Games.
Of course.
Right? Now, with the point system that the people have in place, it makes it a little more difficult for us. But it comes down that this is all, and this young man is getting punished because of the dislike they have for the coach. I've talked to numerous people on both sides, and this is what I'm finding. And there's no way, there's one thing they cannot come and tell me, that they can find any right to tell a young man a week before he's going away that you're not allowed to we're going to coach you virtually. You're a former decent athlete, just like myself. We played hard. We had people teach us the technical side. We know what importance a coach plays.
But even when the association was on this show about 4 weeks ago, they said that coaches don't usually go with their athletes. You have to reach at a certain level.
Listen, usually, but I mean that they have to do it. Think about the athlete.
But I mean, the group that went to represent Cayman Cycling, there was a coach there with them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's only Nathaniel, they don't want to go with a coach. Or they want to go with a coach that they pick probably.
Okay.
And the thing about it, real and truly, from what I'm understanding, and they can bring their credentials, I think there's only one qualified coach at that level in Cayman. And that's Nathaniel's coach.
Coach Ken Gokul.
Yeah, I don't really know him personally.
Yeah, that's his name.
I don't think I've ever met the man to talk to him, so I wouldn't know if he walked up now. I'm not sure what he looks like, but getting the facts is my thing to go around and get the facts, talk to the parents, talk to the athletes, talk to other people, and I'm getting a picture that this is all personal with the coach. But time is longer than rope.
Yes.
And it comes down to membership. One of the things with all of these associations, and I heard you say it one time somehow, that you hear people complaining about their associations, but a lot of times the same people are back. It's because a lot of these associations are stacking the deck. They are stacking the deck. And here's another problem with some of our associations. You have people on these executive bodies that are not Caymanian. So you got people who are here on work permit, making decisions on a Caymanian young person. They're not from here, but they're making decisions, and half the time they're doing it so they can go apply for their permanent residence. but they're getting called out now.
Right.
Because I am going to call them out every time they do these sins. And I will tell people, write to the immigration board and let them know when our athletes, our young people are being wrong. Not when the athlete is wrong, when they're wrong, they're wrong. And people who know me know I am a fair person. But there are too many people sitting on these executive bodies that they have no right to be there. It should be Caymanians, and I don't care if you're a new Caymanian or old Caymanian. You should have Cayman papers to sit on these bodies to make these decisions. If somebody's volunteering, make them advise you from the outside or whatever. Simple. If you mean well. I've been overseas.
Right.
And I've volunteered, and I didn't have to go sit on an executive. You get the air of whoever it is there and say, this is my opinion, this is what I've experienced. Like, thank you very much, I'll take it to the executive. But no. So there's a lot of, and I'm not picking on one association additional. There's a whole lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know that,
nobody's ever said these things. Everybody's always jumping over these things. They're afraid to be unpopular. They're afraid to say what's the truth. And they can come back and twist it. And what you can do with these, there's a lot of people who want to volunteer.
Right.
But we have to put the egos one side, and we have to think about, I go back to that thing that you always say, it has to be about the child. It has to be about the athlete.
Agreed. In your opinion, sir, what is government's role in sports development versus that of an association?
Association is to run the sport. And we're there to assist the associations.
Yes.
And what has happened over the years is that I think a lot of things, I would start in my sector, the government. We have a lot of people in positions in these sporting organizations and in sporting positions that are not sports people.
Right.
So, and that is sacrilege. But I always say this, sports is the one issue that everybody is an expert on. Now, they will tell you who should have played for the Lakers last night. They should tell you, and especially if the team loses, or they should have picked this person. Everybody's you know how this goes. You've been in this long enough. So everybody's an expert. And in a small country like Cayman, it's worse because people come from overseas and talk like there's so much. And if you check it out, they couldn't even make their little village team, much less. But they come to Cayman all of a sudden, they're big experts. The late, great Mr. Winston Skinner, the man who started the sports office, hired me to come and work with him to build it. Once said, and I quote, "The man with the one eye in the is king." But a lot of people don't realize that, a lot of these people that come here don't realize that a lot of eyes are opening inside. We have a lot of local expertise.
Yes.
We have a lot of people now who, and there are people who have looked at even people that helped them and realized they could have done a little more. They could have done a little bit better. But people have got too complacent.
Right.
You have coaches in places for too long. You have administrators in places for too long. And they believe it's their birthright. And how can you tell me that you can't, after 10 years or 12 years, have somebody that can take over from you? You didn't want nobody to take over from you. Well, how is it that I was able, when I took over track and field, and it was close to 100,000 in debt? And how is it that when I was able to leave there, because I always believe that there should be term limits. I believe I never stayed in any of those things longer than 2 terms.
Right.
And then I move on, hand it on. My vice president at that time is a lawyer, and I knew the technical stuff that were coming he would be good at. But I didn't hide anything from the gentleman. I made sure he was always involved. You must always, but these people get on these executive associations, and because they like to travel, and they like their little you mightn't get no money, but you get to travel, they pay for your hotel and stuff like that. You get to meet old friends, and
right.
Nobody wants to let that go.
And I heard where you were also speaking about withdrawing funds or removing sporting bodies from Focus Sports if they're not, operating according to...
They must operate in a transparent manner. They must operate in a very fair manner, and they must not stop our national athletes from competing at international events. Now we have a young man who's building up enough points to go to the Olympics. Now he's not going to be able to go because of this childish, egotistical behavior. And I'm not taking it back, until you prove me and show me something different. This should have been nipped in the bud a long time ago. It should not have started in the first place. It should have started with a conversation with the young man. Listen, this is where the association wants to go. And this is what we see, we'd rather leave your coach. And then he would have said, no, I can't do that, my coach. They said, okay, then, but we talk about it when you come back. Make the young man go, make him perform. If he doesn't perform, then you have to say, oh, but you see, the coach never help you. Or the coach, you could have another angle to come from.
Right.
But no, the egos. And I only know the thing about it, I only know two people on the executive for cycling. One of them I know is a good person. And just like what's happening in the Athletic Association, there's one or two individuals there that have shocked me to the max, that they've gone in, and the same thing that happened under Dalton Watler presidency, then Lance Barnes presidency, that they were on the outside complaining about, the stuff has continued.
Right.
And then to remain a part of it is the part that surprises me, because I know if I didn't have control, or if I don't have control, and something is wrong, obviously wrong, I'm not going to stay a part of it. Like I've said in another interview, half of this association shouldn't be here if I was there with them when the child molestation case went down. And there's a lot that didn't come to that, out of that, D.
A lot.
I can bring two young men that almost messed up their lives when they were almost convinced to sign a letter saying that it was them and not the individual who was found guilty. You never heard about that part, I bet you.
Heard.
Oh, you heard? Okay. Mm-hmm. But nobody ever says that.
Mm-hmm. No one speaks about those things.
And this was at the higher echelons, not only within the association, this was also in government.
Right.
And no one's talking about the cover-up or whatever. If I had been sitting on that board, I would have resigned. I would have said to everybody, you all should resign too. Because we have failed. We have failed to protect these. And the case that went down wasn't the first one, that was the second one. Mm. So it had an idea. So to have that much stomach to stay when all this has gone on, I'm very surprised and shocked.
Right.
But it goes back to the membership. And you asked me why these people keep getting returned.
Yes.
The elections are rigged. And when I say it's rigged, it's how it's rigged. There's one association who has the world body disease into the system. And anytime you have a certain competition, certain teams, the people who vote from the teams get to go to, or the association will take them on a trip or take them to a championship someplace, and then so you control, there's 14 clubs that are voting. All I need is to satisfy 9 of them.
Right.
Because the other ones are irrelevant because I've got the majority of votes. So when you have things like that, then you have one, this is the most famous one. I'd forgotten about it. They're having elections, and you had half the congregation of a church show up. And it was so amusing because one of the ladies from the church I happen to know. And I just jokingly said, well, when you finish election, they have a party over by the stadium. And the exact words were, where's the stadium? Yet they're in here voting in the in the thing. Now here's where I'm talking about me holding back money. I could use the Athletic Association. I would have to have a constitution in front of me, but once again, it has been chopped and changed, and this is another thing. Associations chop and change their constitutions to suit them so they can keep things their way. It used to be that I think it was 2 weeks or 4 weeks after the AGM, all of the names had to be given to the members who had paid up, who had just voted in the election. It does two things. It gives the general body, the people who vote, to say, well, okay, there is 100 of us, and if it's $20, that should be $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
So we can balance it with the books. So, and the Athletic Association used, and I'm a paid up member, and I pay my dues the last 4 years, so I don't have to worry about it in between. And they used to send out, when they send out an email, you would see all the names of everybody on the list. Now how it's sent out, it is sent out, you get your email individually. Isn't that something?
Right.
What is there? Why is it that they don't want the other members to know who is the membership? Tell me why. Yeah. You see, these are the questions that I was saying when Miss Barnes went public with this thing, with the scenario in the Bahamas, which I think was not all the Athletic Association's fault. Some of that fault has to go on the Bahamas. That because if I remember the accreditation, I think when you go online, it at least it used to say that you fill this out and then you get a letter from your association. And apparently there was no letter from the association. That's when someone intervened and said, I'll vouch for them. And that's when all the hell broke loose.
Right, because she did that illegally.
Well, she should not have had the power to do it.
No.
But I don't know her position, the lady's position in the association. So, but anyhow, then the extreme didn't have to be. So, yes, it was obtained, but then having them escorted out of the place by gun.
I definitely do think, Minister Bush, that it could have been handled differently.
A whole lot differently.
But I do think that, and I don't want to step on anyone's toes, because it's a very sensitive matter.
Tell me and I'll do it.
No, that's okay. Yes, you can step on my toes.
No,
but
step on whoever
on
toes.
whoever toes, or you can step on my But you know what? I feel, even though, I think she could have gone about it a different way as well.
Oh, yes, a lot of people said, a lot of people, and like I said, this was my initial reaction. I'm sorry that it was done that way, but I'm happy that it opened the can of worms that we can now discuss it.
Right.
Because even some of the things that the young lady said, talking about physiotherapists.
Right.
Talking about the shoes.
Shoes and all that.
But you know,
I heard that.
When she said she spoke to someone and got the shoes, do you know who she spoke to? It was me. And I happened to be on the spot when he spoke to me. Minister Bryan handed me some money, Isaac Rankin, and Ventisha threw in a couple of hundred as well.
Right.
And I threw in, and we went and got the shoes. Ventisha ordered them and got them delivered, stuff like that. So, I spoken to the coaches, and the last regime that her people was part of, none of the coaches can't seem to remember physio. Even though, just to show you now, and it's good when you have evidence and you have witnesses, the piece of paper, expenses for a trip, says physio, but the coach said there was no physio on the trip, but it was down for the expenses, it was a physio. So who the physio was must have been me.
Well, apparently, when they were here, they said that they got physio immediately when they went to Bahamas. So they got physio up there.
But what I'm talking about is
here.
Do not say that they don't have a physio. There's hardly any physio travel with the team. Don't talk about the shoes, because that's always been that way as well.
Yeah.
Every year to go off, a couple of parents will contact me and I buy the athlete shoes or whatever.
Right.
That's just par for the course. Talk about the selection. What caused this? Look at how swimming's example. There are 2 or 3 swim clubs in Cayman. There was nobody there. They took 2 Caymanian people who was associated around the swim programs, but they took the 2 top coaches who had the most amount of people on their teams to the meet. They accredited the 2 different, there's some athletes, they're swimming or in college or whatever schools overseas, accredited their coaches. What did they do? They accredited a coach that had no athlete on the team, except an injured athlete that should not have gone.
There were only 2 coaches that went.
2.
There was a technical director. And there was Coach Kenrick Williams.
Correct.
Right?
And
but based on what you're saying, whether he had no coaches or anything, he was the most experienced coach.
Who, Kenrick?
Yes.
No, he has experience in what?
In every field.
No, Tyrone Yen is just.
I agree.
Tyrone is just
I
as
agree.
qualified.
I think so.
The only thing he has over Tyrone is age.
Right.
But Tyrone, in the last 10 years, has got more medals for this country as a coach than anybody else. So you had Miss Bent.
Okay.
One of her athletes got the bronze. Okay, the chin boy. Then you had Coach Stanley.
Okay.
4 of his people made the team, I think, and the other 8.
Your mic. Just push it back a bit. Yeah.
The other 12 was from Tyrone's club. And so why are you taking someone that has no athlete there over any of these other people that had athletes?
Well, I disagree.
And why can't you?
Because I think, and no offense, Minister, but I think Coach Kenrick has the experience that Coach Tyrone has.
Yes, but he has no athletes there.
But he's retired.
All the more reason. If he's retired, make Tyrone do it. So why do we keep holding back a young coach like Tyrone?
Yeah. Well, that's something Coach Tyrone is going to have to come and explain for himself.
No, he won't.
He won't? Yeah.
Nah, he may not have been here, born here, but he's a real Caymanian. He don't like confrontation.
But one thing I know about Coach Kenrick is that he can coach every single event.
So
whether it's
Tyrone.
track, whether it's field, shot put, it's javelin, discus.
If you're taking 20 athletes, 21 because it took, you can take more than one coach.
Right.
But at least accredit the other coaches so they can be there with their athletes. Look.
I think that's a great idea. I think if Coach Tyrone has, out of the 21 athletes going and Coach Tyrone has 16, I think Coach Tyrone should be there for his athletes. I agree with that.
But I know where you're coming from about this thing with Coach William. But I can leave you. When we come off here, I can deal with you on that. I can deal with you on that. But like I said, plus there's a fact that nobody else says. A lot of these athletes tell me, and the parents tell me, because beforehand, I was getting calls from parents about being pressured for their children's passport, and they're saying, well, I can give you a color copy of the page to make you know, but I don't want my passport leaving. Right?
Right.
And then they said, we know you're friends with another parent. Call them, find out. And I called the parent to say yes, but I'm not. I told them I'm not giving them mine. Like I said, maybe you might notarize it for me or something. Right. So I know what's going on. A lot of these athletes do even like Kenrick. When I say that, it's not that they dislike him or nothing like that, but they don't have any feelings with him. They have no relationship with him. I'm telling you what the athletes tell me. So at least if you got 12 of the team, come on, Dionne, from one club.
Yeah.
That coach should be there. No, nothing about accrediting him. He should be there.
I think Coach Kenrick is a gem, and I think he should be there. But I do agree with you that if there are more Mustang Track Club athletes there, Coach Tyrone should be there as well, as for all the other clubs.
I think your knowledge is good at basketball. If I was you, I'd leave track and field alone.
You know what? I'm not going to take you on air. What we will do, though, is take a short break, and we can chat in between there. Stay tuned for more in Sports Extra.
I hope that.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
The Ministry of Education invites eligible Caymanians to apply for an Education Council Local Scholarship for the 2023-2024 academic year. To apply for a local scholarship or learn more about various scholarship offerings, please visit the Scholarship Secretariat Unit's website at www.moescholarships.gov.ky. Applications close on Sunday, April 30th, 2023. Brought to you by the Ministry of Education.
Wednesday, April 26th is World Intellectual Property Day. It's a time to celebrate our creative minds, from musicians, songwriters, and authors to inventors, designers, painters, and so much more. Did you know that their creations, just like yours, can be protected by a patent, trademark, or copyright? Find out how to register and protect your intellectual property today. Visit the Cayman Islands Intellectual Property Office website at ciipo.ky for more information. That's ciipo.ky. It's your innovation, your creation, and your intellectual property. Protect it today.
Radio K-Man Super Jam Show, the #1 drive time entertainment show on your radio. Enjoy a mix of pop, hip-hop, dancehall, urban gospel. The Super Jam Show is
brought to you by these kind sponsors.
The Cayman Islands Football Association, SIFA, building a better future for Cayman football.
Cayman Insurance Center.
Don't take chances with your family's future or your valuable assets. Call me today, Michael Webster, at 925-5433.
UWI Open Campus, on-site, online, and on demand.
Visit open.uwi.edu. Call them today at 946-8322.
Super Jam.
Also brought to you by Superior Auto Center. Do it right the first time with Superior Auto.
949-9570
or 525-9571.
Superior Auto. They keep your car in tune.
Super Jam.
Also brought to you by
the Yum School Lunch Program, now available at selected private and public schools across Grand Cayman.
The #1 drive time entertainment show on your radio.
Super Jam.
The annual business survey is being conducted by the Economics and Statistics Office, ESO, from April 11th to June 16th, seek to collect information needed to answer these questions. How did the economy perform in 2022? In 2022, how much did foreign companies invest in the Cayman Islands? The surveys include all relevant entities that produce goods and services in the Cayman Islands. The surveys are confidential under the Statistics Act and are exempt from the Freedom of Information Act. Your response matters. Do your part. Fill out and return your survey forms to the ESO. Remember, better data, better decisions, better business. For assistance in filling up the forms or for more information, visit www.eso.ky or call 244-4676 or 244-4600.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Alrighty, welcome back to Radio Cayman Sports Xtra. And if you didn't hear the voice and you didn't hear his tone, now you know. It's the Minister of Sports. The Minister of Sports, the Honorable Bernie Bush, is in the studio with us. He just put me in my place and tell me I need to stay with basketball and don't talk about track and field. But I'm going to fix him soon. But, you know, Coach, why don't you share with us, I keep calling you Coach because I know you as a coach as well, but what do you think associations should primarily be focusing on and why?
Okay, let's get associations. We go back to the athlete,
yes,
who should be the focal point anyhow. The associations first have to make sure the athletes are given every chance to succeed. Put them in a position to succeed. Mm-hmm. Not put them in a position that they're going to fail or be uncomfortable. There's a really good book called Running Sideways by the same Pauline Davis from the Bahamas.
Right.
If you read,
I heard that she has a book on that.
Yeah, but no, listen to me. She may have made a mistake, but that woman is a fighter. She's been through a lot. And that will tell you about what you have to do for her. You will see what the Bahamas Association did to her because she came from a poor section of Bahamas. Because they're jealous of, because people saw the Prime Minister personally look at her and encouraging her. And later on in the book you found out that the Prime Minister and her father, who was a common laborer, were lodge brothers together. Because when her father died, then she had to hand the body over to the lodge. If you read that book, it's very interesting. Okay. It's an interesting book. It tells you. But going back to the point, you'll see what an association can do an athlete. And you're seeing it happening here in Cayman. It's unfolding in front of us. I am almost grateful that it was Lacey, it was Duntosh, who was retired at this time at Carifta level. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping that she'll continue her. I don't know what's her next step is because she's finished college now.
Yeah.
And
Olympics should be the next step.
She is talented, and I pray that she will continue. But one thing I appreciate about her, you see her trying to pass some of her knowledge on.
Yes.
I do hope now, because as you can tell, world athletics, sometimes I think they become a bigger joke as they get older. They're saying, okay, if you went to a certain level in your career, you can get this coach. I've never believed in that. I've known some of the best. I knew a great athlete who went to the Olympics to represent Trinidad, who was here in Cayman at one time and did a level 1 open book exam and failed. Level 1. Okay. So that proves my point. Just because you went to a certain level, you feel that you should be a coach. No. Go and pass your accreditation.
Right.
That's one thing that's why I've said to every association, you will not get no pay down from me until you run a level 1 course. And in the second year, I expect to see a level 2 course because there are some there who need to do their level 2 now. So because it's one thing I learned in talking to, right now I'm talking to a top 3 club in England, in the English Premier League. And I'm hoping to make the announcement soon of what the MOU was signed.
Okay.
And the first thing they said to me is, coaches, let's get our coaches in place first, and we can take it from there.
Right.
So the associations have to realize it cannot be about them. It has to be about the athletes. You cannot take it personal. Why is it that when I was president that I never had none of these controversies? I remember...
Because you were for the athletes.
I remember Kareem, I was saying who the other athlete was, said to me, people was clamoring at me to bring him home here for trials. And I said, no. Make them continue over in Europe. Make them continue to go and compete. And make the 2 or 3 of them who are out there going to do that. They've run their times, done their distances like in electronic qualified meets, so we know what their position is. It's not like they're running 10-8 and we got somebody home here running 10-2 or 10-3. Then you have to come home. But if you're running 10-2 regularly overseas and everybody home here is running 10-6, 10-7, 10, I'm not going to bring them home. Right. So that read again, and I remember on a plane coming from Guatemala, Mr. Street Thompson said to me, I appreciate the way you really have our backs. Never forget. And that made me feel good that he saw what I was doing. And the associations also have to remember that it's not, you must bury your ego. There's nobody that antagonized me more as a president than Mr. Gerald Harper. And you know he was my friend.
Yes.
I helped arrange his funeral and everything. He's my buddy.
Yes.
But yet I picked him to go with the team. I don't care if he get on mine, but I knew there was the certain athletes that he worked with that wanted Mr. Harper there. We have to always think about the athlete.
And as you say that, I want to point out, and you were speaking about Lacey Barnes before. I want to give credit to Lacey Barnes for coming back and giving back to the sport of track and field. A lot of athletes don't do that.
They don't do that.
And I think an association need to encourage her.
But correct. But it must be done the right way.
And it must be done the right way,
It must be done the right way. That's the thing. You see, let me tell you something. There's other thing I mentioned. There were people going around talking about one of the coaches. Take your athletes from that individual and bring them over to this camp over here. Right. But that person know what they're doing. But the person has a track record of in the last 4 or 5 years having 4 athletes go to the Clifton Medal.
Right.
So don't say that they don't know what they're doing. We have to stop that kind of underhanded. And the bad part of the person they attacked is the most decent, quiet, is never about that individual, always about the athlete.
Right.
Puts everything, does research, asks questions, and is there day in and day out. Who am I to go and say that they don't know what they're doing?
Right.
These are the kind of it was just like before when we were talking about the people telling their athletes, don't go and represent your country.
Right.
We have to tell coaches, we have to tell associations, but the associations got to get their act together. They've got to get boards that are transparent. When it comes election time, you have to see that the election is fair. I'll give an example. The Olympic Committee, which I was a member for 16 years. For 8 years, the present executive members got to vote, which mean I was there because I forget who had nominated me. But now when the association that I was doing, they also had a representative in there because I'm there representing myself from the exec. So whoever sat on the executive automatically had 5 votes starting over everybody.
Okay.
You see how unfair it is? But Carson E. Banks and myself and the president at the time, Donald McLean, we changed it. That every time we would have to get nominated over by one of the sporting organizations.
Right.
So that means when a sporting organization came, I didn't have 2 votes. I had 1.
Right.
That makes it fair to everybody. When you have people asking you, and I have emails to show all this, asking stuff about the running of the association and saying, I'm going to get a lawyer to contact you. And all the person asked was, when is the AGM? What's the voting pattern or whatever? Who can vote? Why all this necessary? Why? These are the frustrating parts, because they start to think that there is, without them, it's nothing. Yeah. And they get these disciples with them that if the disciples ever open their eyes and say the disciples could do a better job, but they just this loyalty to one or two individuals, and no matter what they do, they stay there. But I know this much: as long as I'm here, I will have a representative, and I myself may go to sit in the back of these things and watch and observe and listen.
Yeah, and that's why you formed your sports commission as well. And
yes, the sports commission had their first meeting today.
Okay, awesome.
And they'll be looking at things like how do people become a focus sport, because there are some there that shouldn't be focus sports.
Right.
And then what do you have to do to maintain to be a local sport, and different things like that. But
which sport you think should not be a focus sport?
I'll leave it alone at this time.
It would be remiss of me not to ask.
So I know
the answer you're going to give.
You're a journalist, and I'm not going to say track and field. Okay. I'm not going to say that. As much as I may think things can, the members should get up, but I will not say that track and field is sad to say not sad to say.
Beautiful sport.
It's one of my favorite sports, and I love it. And I do see. Now, this is the next statement that people don't like to hear. I don't see Cayman going anywhere great.
Right.
In any team sport. We do not have the numbers.
Right.
I'm hoping we will produce a basketball player that makes it to Division I college, then makes it to the NBA draft. Yeah. I'm hoping that will happen.
Yeah. Those are the things that can possibly happen. Football as well.
Right. And I'm hoping that a footballer, well, with this program I'm bringing in place, I figure we can have some people getting a chance. I really feel confident, because there is one member of the CIFA executive that if this comes through, I am going to put it in that individual hands, but not from CIFA. But the person has to deal with me. I want them to do it because I respect them and I've seen them, what they can do and what they have done. But
we got to wrap it up now because it's coming to the hour of.
You started 2 minutes late, so we can go 2 minutes more. But let us go with
the I agree with him. Boom.
Let's go with the athletes. let us go with the athletes.
Yes.
Devontae.
Yes.
And
Andrew Stone.
And Mr. Stone. He's my little buddy.
Very nice young man.
Oh, humble.
Two of them.
Devontae, both of them are humble.
Yeah.
Right now, I am so pleased because I was in contact with my advisor, and both of them have gotten a minimum of 4 D1 colleges looking at them.
Awesome.
And if they're, which I know Devontae's, he's at IMG, and I know they have maintained a GPA average. So Devontae is good with that. We have to see where Mr. Stone is. And if not, we have to find some way to get him to some classes to get his grades up or whatever, and these are full rides,
right?
That we're looking at. So God is good, and the young man,
Anthony Chin Jr.
Chin, I know how proud his mother is because she was an athlete in her own right, and his father is into the bodybuilding. For some reason I don't remember him being anything with sports, but I know he was heavy into the bodybuilding. But the young boy has 2 good parents genetically wise.
Yes.
And then Miss Bent has put a good foundation that at the next level, if you get a next coach, when he gets to the next level, that the person, because even that book with Pauline Davis, how she went from running in Carifta to running in college, you see how hard these coaches do. Very few coaches will say, here, take my athlete, is you at the next level.
Right.
But the young man, I watched the fundamentals are there. The muscle memory is getting there, so we're in good state. On the swimmer side,
Jillian Crooks and Sierra Broadbelt.
But there was a lot more than them.
Leela, I think what's her name? Leela was another one that was really good, and they were amazing. They all got 11 medals.
But you know what made me smile though? There was 3 things that happened. Was one of the 4 musketeers. There's 4 little boys there.
Oh yeah.
And we were, and boy, that beloved Isle came on. It was being played a
yes.
bit.
Oh yes. How much times is it? 66 times?
I don't know. No, only when you get the gold medal.
Yeah.
But I know one thing. It was being sung, and the first thing, you see,
you hear stand up here.
When that would start to play, all of a sudden behind me, I would hear these young athletes singing. That made me proud to know that they even knew, because I've gone to 2 events lately where the so-called national athletes, beloved Al Keman is playing, and they didn't. There was
they
one
can't sing it.
They can't sing it. And that was the first thing. But there was 2 countries right next to us, and there were 2 athletes were talking, and one of the 4 musketeers said, "Excuse me, this is my national song. Have respect and shut up." And I'm saying to myself, this little boy talking to them big boys like this? But that, and then at the open water swim, a joke was made, and someone called one of the swimmers Irish, and she proudly said, "My mother's Irish. I'm Caymanian." I love that.
I like that.
I mean, you were born in Trinidad.
Yes.
But can anyone tell your 3 kids that they're not Caymanian?
No.
I rest my case. And those were moments that I would hold on to. I seen athletes cry when they won. I seen athletes cry when they lose. But I saw some athletes dead tired, have to fill in a relay team because someone wasn't feeling good, and give it their all. All we can say to our athletes is thank you. Thanks to the parents for the time you put in. The coaches and associations are doing the right thing. And I'm going to say to the membership for all these various associations, take charge of your associations. Ask questions. And if you want, put it in writing. No one likes to see a question in writing.
Right.
Put it in writing, because they can't say they never answered. If they didn't answer, then you say they never answered. Make them be responsible. When you see a case of water in Jamaica for $100 and something, the water's golden. They have to be accountable.
Yeah. I know, Mr. Minister, the continued investments in sports by the government, and of course the success of most disciplines, it's truly rewarding. It's a positive contribution to the holistic development of our young people, and for that we are very thankful. And I'm very thankful for you for stopping by on our show and giving your views. It's nice to hear your views. We need a part 2. We definitely need a part 2.
What I appreciate with you is that you were a former athlete yourself. You come from a family of athletes. You've been through the ranks. One thing I didn't see you ever coach.
I've coached. I have 3 championships as a coach under 16.
I will make no comment on that. She probably took 16-year-old children and played against the primary school to win a championship. But so you understand.
Yeah, I do.
You understand every aspect, first as an athlete, then as a coach, and now you're sitting this as a thing. So you understand. You would ask the right questions.
Right.
And I want to say to other athletes, don't give up. People's out there fighting for you all. And to the members of these associations, help your executive. If they need help, they need people to show up and help, but keep them accountable. It has to be about the athletes.
Definitely be about the athletes. That's one thing we learned about tonight, is that it should be about the athletes. That's most important. How else is the sport going to go forward? If the athlete stops playing, then what do you have? Right?
A bunch of people like me and you.
Yeah, sitting here talking about them. All right, that's it for Radio Cayman Sports Extra for this evening. Of course, as you know, Sports Extra is about giving you the latest information on sports here in the country. If you would like the opportunity to be a part of our show, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at sportsextracayman@gmail.com. Thank you so much, Mr. Minister. Thank you so much. Good night to our listeners, and God bless. Don't forget to like us on Facebook at Radio Cayman Sports Extra.
You know, as a coach, I thoroughly agree. The athlete has just qualified for the World Championship on the biggest stage in a bar. The guys have been training for the last 5 months now, so they're there and they're highest spirit that they can do well.
It was really infectious. I mean, for a 4-day meet with 2 sessions each day, that's pretty exhausting. And these kids were just rocking for the whole weekend.
The Caymanian tradition.
Let Cora keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman Islands. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
Spread the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman